Okay, so this past weekend, um, total, we got about $38 million domestically in the United States. And this is about a 37% drop from last weekend, which last weekend, if you remember, was not very good either. So this is pretty pathetic. Again, January and February are always kind of slow, but as we're starting to move into mid-February, things should start picking up, and these numbers are a little concerning. So the only thing major film this week releasing, or opening, I should say, is we got Lisa Frankenstein coming in at number 2, grossing about $3.8 million domestically. So this wasn't projected to do very well to begin with. It was projected to make around 7 to 12 million in its opening weekend, and only was able to bring in about half that. So, I really haven't seen any marketing for this movie, and I go to the movies pretty frequently, and I've not seen a trailer for this. So, I'm planning on going to see it later this week, but yeah, these numbers just aren't great. It was a pretty cheap movie though. It was only made for about 13 million. So, I think they, with a movie like this, it's horror-based, kind of, but like a horror comedy. It's also kind of like a rom-com. So I guess they really, they basically had the choice of, do we want to do it in October with more horror fare or kind of lean into the romantic side? And, they've leaned into the romantic side, but it hasn't really worked out for them. So maybe they'll get a little bit of a bump this week with Valentine's Day on Wednesday. But that day itself already has its own set of new releases, so I'm not sure how much room there's going to be for something like this, which again isn't really on people's radar. In terms of the rest of the top 10, in terms of things that are continuing, we got 2 projects here that are in their second week. Argylle coming in at number 1 again, being able to hold the spot. So that's another kind of issue with Lisa Frankenstein, is that it couldn't even claim the very top of the box office. Argylle was able to hold on to that, 6.5 million for the weekend. Huge drop, 63% drop. Again, the word of mouth, I think, it kind of opposite of Lisa Frankenstein. It was everywhere. Social media, commercials, the trailer, which again has infamously been, mocked and finding out who's the real Agent Argylle. And then, just poor word of mouth and bad reviews, has seemed to really hurt this. So it's so far total, it's made about 29 million domestic, 60 million worldwide. And again, this is on a reported budget of about 200 to 250 million dollars. So it's not looking like it's even gonna make back that budget, let alone making any kind of profit. And again, another indictment of just the status of the American box office at this point in 2024. Again, we have The Chosen, Season 4, Episodes 1 and 3 that were released as kind of like a big batch. I think it's like with Fathom Events. That was at second place last week, and it managed to stay in the top 5, only dropping to number 4. It had about a 47% drop, which, I think considering that this is essentially just like the first 3 episodes of a TV show season, I think this is perfectly fine numbers. If anything, this is more about building awareness for the property and less about actual box office intake. It had about a 47% drop. And again, I'm surprised it even is going into a second weekend. I feel like this would have been better as like a 1 week only kind of situation, but so far it's made about 13 million domestic and worldwide. And again, since it is a television show first and foremost, this is any money that they're making here is really just icing on the cake, at least in my opinion. Not much else to report here. Again, it's kind of just same old. Again, Beekeeper holding third place in its 5th frame, only dropping about 34%, making about 55 million domestic so far and 134 million worldwide off of just a $34 million budget. So this film has ended up being very successful. I'm not sure how or why, but clearly it has enough of an audience of people wanting to see a bombastic Jason Statham action thriller kind of thing that it's ended up doing fairly well for them. Again, Wonka is still in the top 5 in its 9th frame. It only dropped from 4th to 5th place. Only a 33% drop. And so far, it's made about 205 million just domestically and close to 600 million worldwide. All just on a $125 million budget. So this has been a rousing success. A rousing success. And yeah, I think just looking at all of it, if you take a look at kind of the right side of these columns here, we have like the amount of weeks that they've been in theaters. And if you notice, a majority of these premiered in 2023, right? So a lot. So this box office weekend, as well as just the entire 2024, has been pretty abysmal. And even within those abysmal results, it's been primarily dominated by projects that came out the year prior in November or December. So, you know, I think you have these films like American Fiction and Poor Things, again, who got a little bit of a bump once they got their nominations. But, you know, not hugely successful. Again, American Fiction and Poor Things only grossing about $1 million or so this past weekend. Poor Things doing a little bit better totally. It has about $81 million worldwide, just off of a $35 million budget. So yeah, again, things just aren't looking great, and I think Hollywood's really looking towards, you know, I think this upcoming Valentine's Day is going to be potentially a decent box office draw, but I think it's really looking to Dune Part 2 in early March to really hopefully kind of inject some life into this box office.